I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Dame Caroline Dinenage. Moment for the House. If people can leave quietly, please. Dame Caroline Dinenage.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I start by first of all welcoming the Minister to his place. I very much look forward to working with him across these benches and across this chamber in order to promote our world-class creative industries, our music industry and all the other fantastic sectors that the Culture, Media and Sport Department promotes. But today we're talking about ticketing, about music ticketing, and I wanted to start this by recognising the remarkable circumstances which have provoked this debate. As Madam Deputy Speaker, as you know, news of the Oasis reunion dominated the news cycles over the last week or so, but some might say for all the wrong reasons. What should have been a moment to celebrate one of the UK's most significant cultural exports and revisit the music which for many of us, me included, was a soundtrack to our youth, has morphed into a conversation about exploitative practices in the music industry, practices that hurt fans and the grassroots sector. Some of these are issues that have been rumbling away for years. In fact, earlier this year, the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee published a report into grassroots music which outlined some of the major challenges facing the live music ecosystem and suggested some ways forward. The Minister knows the facts. On the 31st of August, around 14 million people from 158 countries logged into a digital queue to buy tickets to Oasis Reunion Tour Live 25, 15 years after the band broke up and 30 years on from their seminal first album, Definitely Maybe. Fans found themselves locked in an online queue for up to 10 hours, and when many of them, what seemed almost at random, made it to the front of that queue, tickets were in many cases over double the price that had been advertised. This dynamic pricing mechanism employed by Oasis and their promoters and management via Ticketmaster served to increase the price of tickets in line with demand. But in reality, this meant a kind of lucky dip game in which the price got worse and worse by no clear mechanism except the secret and opaque rules of a computer algorithm at the hands of Ticketmaster. I should tell the Minister that I should declare an interest, Madam Deputy Speaker, as well. After 4 hours of queuing myself, I had become wistful of the halcyon days of real-life physical box offices, where one sometimes queued almost overnight in order to get your tickets, but at least you could see the queue in front of you and you knew how long you'd probably have to wait in order to get your hands on your tickets. I would, of course.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend the Honourable Lady for Gosport for bringing this forward. She's absolutely right. Many of my constituents experienced the very issue that the Right Honourable Lady referred to. And does the Right Honourable Lady not agree that whilst we of course understand the economic principles of supply and demand, we also understand the principle of price gouging? And for those who believe that they will be charged on an amount to have a number of minutes to determine whether they will be prepared to pay double is immense and is unfair pressure. And that whilst we must always encourage free trade, we must also be mindful of consumer protection in Strangford, in Gosport, or any part of this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and indeed throughout the whole UK. Thank you.
Deputy Speaker, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly what it is. We do understand the laws of supply and demand, but we also understand the laws of transparency and fairness. And what's more, once ticket purchases were through to the payment screen, fans realised that they only had a very limited time, as he says, to decide whether these hugely inflated prices were worth paying. Someone compared the ticket purchase after such a long wait to the dopamine rush of a gambler, where the £150 to £400 price increase meant the transaction was no longer a choice, it was more of an impulse buy. And I've heard many people say that the dynamic pricing method is used in other sectors very effectively, and that technology is a perfect demonstration of the dynamism of a free market. And even within the music industry itself, there is definitely dispute as to whether dynamic pricing has a place and whether this is actually an acceptable way forward. Of course.
I'm very grateful to the right honourable lady and congratulate for this debate. I was hoping to get myself, but she beat me to it. Can I just say to her that there seems to be this issue about who's to blame for all this. Nobody seems to be taking responsibility for who was responsible in initiating the dynamic pricing. The Ticketmaster are blaming the management and the artists, and they're blaming those that were promoting it. Would she consider, as she's now the chair of the CMS committee, to maybe look at this on behalf of the House and find out exactly why this happened with a view to having it stopped and outlawed entirely?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, certainly at the moment, of course, I'm very fortunate to have been re-elected as the chair of the Select Committee, but we don't have a committee yet, and any decisions about what the committee will look at will very much be a group decision jointly taken. But this is certainly something that I will be putting forward, and I know that the Minister's already announced some consultation of his own on this really, really important issue. Just talking about dynamic pricing a bit more for a second, and about those sort of laws of supply and demand, which the Honourable Gentleman for Strangford spoke about. You know, this is something that's used across different marketplaces. Uber in particular enjoys a very smart dynamic pricing mechanism which adjusts the cost of journey in line with changing variables like traffic and the current rider to driver demand, hotels and airlines, of course. But these are very different. If you're stuck at Waterloo Station, like I sometimes am, and Uber isn't your only option of travel. When you go on holiday, there are multiple airlines offering flights to the same city with different hotel options. But when it comes to live music, particularly in the case like this one, there is one artist, there is one opportunity to buy a ticket. The imperfections of the dynamic pricing mechanism were obvious to anybody who attempted to buy tickets through it on this particular occasion. But whatever the rights and wrongs and its suitability for the music ticketing and for this marketplace, the most important issue is that fans were not warned about the use of dynamic pricing before they entered the digital queue. And they are the same faults, I believe, that led the Competitions and Markets Authority to open their investigation into this debacle. It meant that people had no idea how much a ticket would cost when they logged in, and many, many fans ended up paying at least double the original listing price of £148. So 4 standing tickets could cost an eye-watering £1,400 once service and order processing fees were included. The CMA says that it'll investigate whether fans were given clear and timely information. Any free market economist would call this a classic case of information asymmetry. There was certainly a lack of clarity over how high ticket prices might eventually go, with the additional chaos of this time limit putting pressure on fans to make an imminent decision as to whether they were going to buy. Now, Ticketmaster claims that the dynamic pricing mechanism is the best way to deter ticket touts, the logic being that any tout buying tickets in bulk would increase demand and therefore see his or her prices and margins slashed. But The Guardian's already said that secondary ticketing platforms are advertising more than 4,500 tickets from this tour already, including from one tout who claims to have at least 33 tickets at Cardiff, Wembley and Murrayfield listed for a combined price of over £26,000. So I'm glad that the government this summer announced a consultation into the secondary ticketing market, where tickets are sold in bulk by touts and who often use bots to scout for tickets at face value and sell them well beyond the market value. But I wonder if the Minister could set out the parameters and the timescales for this work. When's it going to happen? What's it likely to include? Because of now, of course, he's announced that this investigation will be widened to consider the dynamic pricing and what happened in the Oasis situation. So can we have reassurance that the eye won't be taken off of the ball of the original consultation that he announced in the summer? Because, of course, there's so many aspects at play here. This method of resale is also the culprit for a large amount of money lost to fraud. Lloyd's estimated that £1 million was lost to scammers during the Taylor Swift Eras tour alone. And will the Minister tell me whether the secondary market consultation will include conversations with the digital search engines who are signposting customers into the hands of touts and not doing enough to get them to direct to principal sales sites? But I think there's scope for an entire primary market review, for ticketing to be reviewed in a much wider scale, a wider ticketing review. The Oasis episode has really opened fans' eyes to potential anti-competitiveness within this industry, because as complaints began to flood in about the ticketing process, as the Honourable Gentleman says, Oasis said that it was their management and promoters that had agreed a dynamic pricing strategy with Ticketmaster. But of course, their 3 tour promoters all have links to Live Nation, Ticketmaster's parents' company, and in effect, they are all the same party. So that party is making money hand over fist through this system, which keeps everything under the Live Nation umbrella. For a typical tour, a Live Nation subsidiary promoter might take 10% off the face value of a ticket. A service charge of perhaps a quarter of that face value will then be applied, and some of that money will be going to Live Nation-owned Ticketmaster. The venue will take a cut at this stage, which in all likelihood is a Live Nation-owned venue too, as they own 28 festivals and venues UK-wide. And then the process is repeated at resale, making, if you go through Ticketmaster, at higher cost than before, leaving Live Nation with an even greater cut. And the Minister doesn't need to be a public intellectual to see there's a real perverse incentive for Ticketmaster to see tickets in the hands of touts. He'll know that the United States Department of Justice has slapped Live Nation with a lawsuit citing anti-competitive conduct, whilst it's now well established that the company has a near monopoly in the UK. Dynamic pricing is quite an effective way of rewarding a near monopoly, with no upper limit on the price tickets, meaning a greater cut for the parent company. I suppose, Madam Deputy Speaker, the great sadness of all this is that this system is not only punishing the fans. In this case, it's those Oasis fans to whom that music was so totemic, so life-changing for them back in the 90s. But there's also, to add insult to injury, no trickle down to the live music ecosystem, like the grassroots music venues that they first played in while honing their skills, the venues that made them, venues like the Boardwalk in Manchester and King Tut's in Glasgow. And while Oasis have since announced further tour dates, tickets to new dates will be sold at face value via invitation-only ballot. I can't help feeling that the fans who paid through the nose via dynamic pricing are going to feel very hard done by. So I'd like to encourage the Minister to look at ways to amplify fans' voices within the live music ecosystem. He might start by responding to the Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee's report into grassroots music, which I already mentioned. It was published in May, and I know we've had a small matter of a general election since then. But I would like to know if when this response is likely to be forthcoming, and whether the government is minded to accept its recommendations. These recommendations include things like the fan-led review of music, Madam Deputy Speaker, something like the fan-led review of football that was led by my former honourable, well, my still friend, but my former right honourable friend, the former member for Chatham and Aylesford, Tracy Crouch, to look at how music pyramid functions and how the money trickles down from the big players to those small venues, those fledgling songwriters and artists. Recommendations like the targeted VAT cut, which to grassroots venues would have represented a final hour of salvation from a sector that really is widely accepted to be in crisis, and recommendations like a live music levy, which would take a small proportion of the service fee from the pockets of the big venues and bring them right down to the struggling businesses in the grassroots. Because what's most pertinent to me, Madam Deputy Speaker, about all of this is that whilst many of those 28 venues and festivals in which Live Nation owners stake are flourishing, grassroots music venues are closing at the rate of 2 a week. And in fact, I'm sure the Minister's aware that of the 34 music venues in which Oasis played on their first tour back in 1994, only 11 of them are still open today. And those venues, Madam Deputy Speaker, are so crucial. They are absolutely fundamental to incubate our world-renowned talent. They are the R&D department for the music industry, if you like. They are a massive feeder into something which is fundamental to our UK economy, something which is crucial to our soft power around the world. And in a ticketing market gone wrong, that there might have been a gram of comfort to some of the fans paying through the nose for their ticket if they knew that in paying it, some of the money that they were handing over was protecting grassroots music venues in their communities and germinating the Oasis of the future. I know the Minister, like me, wants nothing more than to see our musical talent continue to thrill fans both at home and around the world, but behind every great act is a chance performance at a low-capacity venue that's struggling to keep the lights on, that's at financial breaking point, and that is a hair's breadth away from closing its doors.
Thank you very much. And might I say it's a particular delight to see you in the chair. I haven't had an opportunity to congratulate you on your election. Hurrah. It's also a great delight, Madam Deputy Speaker, to see the Honourable Member and to congratulate her on her election. Not many Tories have been elected to many things this year, but it's a great delight to see that she's going to be returning as the chair of the Select Committee. I know she knows a lot about this subject matter, and she's devoted a lot of her time and energy to it, and I look forward to working with her. I'm sure there will be times when she has crosswords with me, but sometimes crosswords make governments better. That was certainly my policy when I was sitting on that side of the House, so I'm sure that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The live events are really important to the British creative economy and actually to the whole economy in the UK. It's the joy that it brings. I would defy anybody, I'm sorry to start with a Kylie reference, well I'm not actually, but I would defy anybody to have gone to the Kylie concert in Hyde Park this summer and not to have come away bouncing with joy and full of the joys of spring. It was beautiful, it was amazing. Everybody, thousands and thousands of people in a royal park enjoying themselves and celebrating. And for others who went the night before, Stevie Nicks in a completely different vein, but nonetheless providing that same sense of joy. And that is a really important part of what live events can do. That sense of being part of an enormous crowd of people enjoying either singing along or listening, that special sense of being together. It's really important to our economy. I remember, I think it must be a year ago now, being in Newcastle, and Sam Fender was performing at St James's Park, and Pink, we went to Pink, was on at the Stadium of Light. That must have been millions of pounds into the local economy. It certainly was an awful lot of money into the local hotels. And I know when down in Cardiff we have lots of concerts which many people from the South Wales Valleys go to, and people come from all over the world. When Springsteen was there earlier this year, I mean, basically Cardiff had to be closed off, but the knock-on for the hotels, the bars, the hospitality industries was really significant, and of course for tourism, and I'm the Minister for Tourism as well. 200,000 people in the UK last year, it was reckoned, worked in the live events industry, and it's a really important part of what we do. It's one of the reasons that many people want to come to the UK. If I might gently say, one of the things that we would like to sort out is British acts being able to tour elsewhere in Europe, but it's good that Europeans are able to come here to see some of our acts as well. The Honourable Member for Gosport makes a really important point. This is not just about very big venues, it's about small venues as well. And I do have an anxiety about the state of play for many of them. Some of these issues are shared with the whole of the hospitality industry, incidentally, about skills and staffing and the costs of fuel and so on, and security. But it is a simple fact, as she points out, and as the Select Committee has pointed out, that there have been far too many closures over recent years, and we stand ready to do what we possibly can to try and slow down, if not halt, that process of closures, because she's right. If an act doesn't have somewhere to start which has a capacity of 250 or 300 or 500, how is it ever going to grow to a place where they end up filling Wembley or any of the arenas that we've been talking about? And I would say about live events that the value is created by the artist, the fans, and the venue. It's a combination of the three. It's not created by ticket touts. It's created by the artists, the fans, and the venue, and it's that combination that we really have to work on. And she's absolutely right. Ticketing has changed. I remember once going to I was in St Petersburg, well, it was then Leningrad, that's how old I am, and I went to buy tickets for the opera, and you bought tickets by, you bought them, they were rolled up in a little peg hole. That's what a ticketing system used to be, and that's what theatres used to have as well in the UK. And then we went over to a system of having a physical ticket, which we presented, and many of us have kept all our tickets for shows that we've ever been to. I know friends who've got collections of OMD tickets through the years and so on. And now, of course, we have a completely online digital system. And that is great in many ways. It can enhance security, it can be easier, but it can be much, much more difficult, and it has produced a whole set of new challenges for fans and artists and for venues to be able to make the market work effectively. Barcodes and QR codes and all the rest of it, being whether you're going to transfer a ticket from one person to another person, different apps that are developed by different venues, and so on. So there are very new challenges. First of all, about security, she's referred to some of this, getting the ticket that you've actually paid for, rather than a ticket that didn't really exist at all in the first place. And we've all heard hideous examples of that, and it has been an embarrassment, I think, for all of us that over recent years we've seen so few prosecutions in this area, despite the fact that nearly all of us can cite instances of constituents who've fallen prey to people being effectively selling tickets that they thought they might be going to buy online and not actually having them. And then people turning up to the venue and finding that the tickets aren't being honoured because they weren't tickets in the first place. So there's a security issue in the modern market. There's a fairness issue, I would say. She points out the experience of people logging on at 9 o'clock and then sitting there for hours and hours in a system. You have no idea how somebody gets to be number 1,273 rather than 1,884 in the queue. It seems completely and utterly random, but one suspects that there might be clever means that other people with very deep pockets who know how to navigate the system are able to manipulate. And it's clear that there are many instances of bots effectively hoovering up large number of tickets using lots of different IDs, using different credit cards, and the rest of it. And so there's an issue of fairness. Why is it? Is everybody queuing fairly or not? And then there's the question of transparency. Online sites that aren't really as open as they might be about the real cost or the original cost, the face value cost of the ticket that they're now selling for a different price. And I know some people say to me, well, it says FV, and all you have to do is point on the FV. But well, why don't they just put the face value immediately obvious? I'll give the House one instance of inflated prices, which is much more excessive actually in this secondary market than she's referred to. So if you go to Viagogo and you want to go to Dua Lipa at the Royal Albert Hall on the 17th of October, you can either buy a ticket for £912, face value €63. I don't know why it's cited at €63, or £1,000, face value £70. Or this is my favourite one, you can buy a ticket for £9,444 each, face value £126.38. Now, as she rightly says, not a single penny of the difference between £126 and £9,444 is going to the artist, is going to the venue, is going to the cleaner in the venue, the lighting expert in the venue, the person who wrote the songs that Dua Lipa is going to sing, or to the fans. It's simply going to be a go-go. And I think that's unfair. It's not right. It's inappropriate. And I know that there are dozens and dozens of artists who are utterly embarrassed about the situation in which they find themselves and want us to act in this sphere. Of course, I give way to one of our leading musicians.
Thank you ever so much, Minister. We're delighted that he's on top of this and he knows the issues and the difficulty. I think what we're more interested in now, what the time he's got left, is him now just explaining what he's going to do about it and how he's going to resolve this. There's a CMA report, there's the Right Honourable Lady's report from the Select Committee. Will the government be looking at them constructively and bringing in legislation so that this is no longer a feature in live ticket sales?
He's a terribly impatient man, and I'm just coming on to that. No, we've got till 7:30. He's right that this is something where we have to take action, and we committed ourselves in the general election that we would take action on this secondary marketing, a secondary ticket market. We believe that these people are denying true fans the opportunity to buy tickets on the primary market, and they're pocketing any profit for themselves. Very little, as I said, of the additional revenue actually goes to artists, venues, or anyone working in the live venue sector more generally. So the government is committed to putting fans back at the heart of live events and to clamping down on unfair practices in the secondary ticketing market. Now, on the consultation, to be precise, that is why we have committed to introduce new protections for consumers on ticket resales, and we will be launching a consultation in the autumn to find the best ways to address ongoing problems on the resale market. The consultation will consider a range of options, including revisiting recommendations from the Competition and Market Authority's 2021 report, such as limitations on the price of tickets listed for resale over the face value, limiting the number of tickets individual resellers can list to the number of tickets they can legitimately buy via the original platform, making platforms accountable for the accuracy of information about tickets they list for sale, and ensuring that the Competition and Markets Authority has the powers it needs to take swift, decisive action against platforms and touts to protect consumers. We want live events ticketing to work for UK fans, and I would say that the market was made for humanity, not humanity for the market, and sometimes government needs to intervene to make sure that the market does indeed work for humanity. Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As an Oasis fan, I too was queuing endlessly, and it proved to me that badly regulated markets have no morality. And the conclusion of this kind of dynamic pricing policy was, in that incident, that people with more money or touts could get those tickets. And I speak as someone who played in rock bands when I was a younger man, although none so famous and successful as my colleague over there. But live music is universal in that it reaches out to the souls of people of all backgrounds, and therefore I'd be grateful for the Minister's view on what he can do to make sure that as many people as possible can get tickets for live music.
Well, persuade people to do more gigs, I guess. Obviously, you know, there is an issue about there are only so many tickets for certain events, but I think what people want to have guaranteed is that the market is not pricing them out, or is not excluding them solely on the basis of price. People understand, you know, sometimes you have a ballot for tickets, as they do for Wimbledon, for instance, and I gather Oasis have now introduced a partial ballot for some of the next round of concerts gigs that are being advertised. But we want to look at all of these issues in the round. I should just say something about the CMA announcement. Of course, like many others across the House, I know lots of people, including my honourable friends, the Leader of the House and others, who've told me stories about their process of trying to buy tickets 2 weekends ago for Oasis's reunion tour. I should point out that Oasis only reunites under a Labour government. In light of the concerns expressed by fans about the sales process, we welcome the CMA's announcement that it has launched a formal investigation into Ticketmaster. The CMA has said that it is concerned that fans trying to buy Oasis tickets through Ticketmaster may not have been given clear information about ticket prices, and has asked fans to share their experiences. The CMA's investigation will look at whether the sale of Oasis tickets by Ticketmaster may have breached consumer protection law. Now, this is important for me as a minister. Others have greater freedom in what they can say, but given this is a live investigation and the CMA's status as an independent law enforcement body, it is important to ensure that the independence and integrity of any investigation is protected. So, to avoid prejudicing that process, I'm not going to comment on that investigation. I look forward to reading the CMA's findings, and I merely note that lots of people have said that they'd like their money back. Following recent events, however, the government will look at issues around the transparency and use of dynamic pricing in the live event sector, and we are carefully considering how this is taken forward in light of the CMA's announcement. So I just want to talk specifically about dynamic pricing for a moment. In general terms, of course, dynamic pricing involves a business adjusting its prices according to changing market conditions, such as high and low demand. It is an established pricing strategy, and it has been a feature of our live events industry for some time, at least in certain forms. As an example, I'm sure that many members will have managed to snap up cut-price tickets to popular West End shows by purchasing their tickets on the day of the event. We're used to seeing organisers or venues slash their prices in this way in order to fill out those few remaining seats. And it's also common to see early bird tickets released at lower prices, where punters essentially receive a discount on full price tickets for an event by buying their tickets within a certain period of time after they go on sale or until a limited batch of tickets has been sold. Glastonbury does this, Wigmore Hall does this for people who are signed up to its programme, and for that matter, the Rhondda Arts Festival in Treorchy also does this. I urge people to look online and buy some tickets for next year. In both of these scenarios, there are fans who benefit from a better deal than they might have otherwise been able to secure had they bought their tickets at another time. Equally, there will be other fans who bought their tickets at another time and will have had to pay a different or indeed higher price. Honourable members will have their own views on all of this, but I would suggest that this is a trade-off that most people are accustomed to and that we can generally accept. We would not want half-empty venues.
Order.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is, does the House do now adjourn? Continue, Sir Chris Bryant.
Thank you. We would not want half-empty venues, despite looking around the chamber, due to tickets being priced too high, nor venues and festivals that are not economically sustainable. What we should not accept, however, and I'm very clear about this, and the government is too, are practices that see fans of live events blindsided by price hikes, either because they were not provided with the right information up front or because that information was not provided clearly enough. To do so might be in breach of existing consumer law, which requires businesses to be fair and transparent in their dealings with the consumers. It is the responsibility of the CMA to investigate potential breaches of consumer law arising from or involving the use of dynamic pricing methods and to take enforcement action where appropriate, and I've already referred to their investigation in this case. It is the responsibility of government, however, to confront the wider policy questions around the use of dynamic pricing for tickets to live events. We've already said that we will look at this further to establish whether consumers are adequately protected under existing law or if more needs to be done. And to answer the question that the member for Gosport directly asked, will this mean that we're going to take our eye off the ball on the secondary ticket market? No, it won't. We are very clear. We have a set of manifesto commitments, and we will be bringing out our consultation this autumn. And we expect to be, once we've completed that consultation, we expect to take the necessary action that we were committed to in our general election manifesto. And I hope, since most of that is in line with what the Select Committee was advocating before the general election, that we might still enjoy the support of the Select Committee in that. And yes, she's right, we will also be looking at websites that are pointed. That's all part of the whole panoply of it. And I would also, I think she effectively referred to vertical integration within the ticketing system. Of course, that is part of what has to be part of our consideration in this field, because that's another part of making sure that the market works for humanity, works for fans and for artists and for the creative industries, rather than all of us having to operate as slaves of the market. I'm not sure whether the Honourable Gentleman is trying to intervene. No, he's just sitting forward. Right. The Prime Minister has said that we are committed to putting fans at the heart of music and ending extortionate resales, and we will launch a consultation this autumn, as I've said, to work out how best we can do that. The consultation in this particular regard will look at tickets for live events, and a call for evidence will be sent out looking at price transparency, including dynamic pricing, helping us to understand the needs of fans and the live events industry. To be absolutely clear with the House and with the Honourable Lady, this is about this is about tickets for live events, not about the whole of dynamic pricing across all industries in the UK. This is about live events tickets, to be very, very precise. I think there was one other question that the Honourable Lady asked, which was about the timetable? No, I think I've addressed that. Oh, no, when will we respond to the grassroots venue report from May? We've been getting our feet under the table as fast as we possibly can, and I'm very eager to do so in swift order. I take the responsibilities of the Select Committees very seriously. I sat on the Select Committee from 2001-2005. It was one of the most important things I think I've done as a Member of Parliament. So we will respond as soon as we can, and it will certainly be in the autumn. I'd like it to be as soon after the committee is fully formed as possible. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable Member for securing this debate. I know she tried to get, well, I'm not allowed to refer to what she tried to get in terms of urgent questions, but I have now. We have a world-class live events sector in the UK, and I'm absolutely determined that fans have every opportunity to experience it firsthand. There is nothing better than standing in an audience in a crowd along with hundreds of other people, either experiencing an artist that you've never seen before in your life and suddenly going, my God, that is just, it's pierced right through to my heart, or going to somebody that you've seen 50 times and you've listened to the album 75 times in the last week, and you have that joyful, joyful moment. There'll be different artists for every single one of us, but I want far more people in this country to be able to enjoy that opportunity. I want every child to have a creative education. I want them to have the opportunities that so many others enjoy in my constituency and every other. And I acknowledge that dynamic pricing can help match supply with demand, resulting in both higher and lower prices. But when it is used as a business model, it needs to be transparent and fair, and that's what we want to ensure.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear from two musicians, and Sir Chris Bryant has given away his true old age. The question is, this House do now adjourn. As many of that opinion say aye? Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.